Hello, hello. I'm back. Still alive. Still in lockdown, but it's all good. It's that time again. Award season is upon us. And a lot of people are out here making their picks for, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year. Some people out here, in my opinion, they're making reasonable arguments. And some people out here are just bugging. Like, they're just straight tripping out. Like, dude, like, what are you even saying? And, there's a lot. All these awards are, like, super narrative-based. But, at the same time, you had to be consistent. Sure, there are, like, exceptions to stuff. But, for the exceptions, it doesn't really happen often at all. And, most of the exceptions are just based off of narrative. But, I wanted to make my picks for all the awards. And the first thing I'm going to start off with is MVP. My pick for the MVP is, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
The freak.
Stop! What is wrong with you?
He could be a freak on the court and on the shits. You know what I'm saying?
You're embarrassing yourself.
Woo!
There's no shame in saying that Giannis is having a better season than LeBron James. LeBron James is great, but Giannis was on like a whole nother level this season. Like, he was leading the league in PER, in, defensive rating, like all these advanced analytics, right? He's either number one or he's in top three, at least, I believe. Like every like efficiency and advanced analytic rating, like Giannis is in it. Like his stats this season are like what? Like, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists on like 55% shooting. Like, put that into context, right? He's putting those numbers while averaging like 31 minutes. Like, he's not even playing as much minutes as like LeBron James. LeBron James is playing like about 35 minutes. He's putting up like, I think it's like 28 and 10 and like 8 or something of that sort, right? This is the first season LeBron James is averaging double digits in assists. But, Giannis is having the highest, or he still actually has the highest PER rating in NBA history. I mean, he was at a point where I think it was like, I believe his PER right now is like 35. But he was at a point where, like, they're putting like a chart on like the jump where he was a couple points ahead of Will Chamberlain. The Will Chamberlain's most efficient season was 31.8, right? That was his most efficient season. Giannis is putting up like 35.6, 34 to like 35, right? We'll put that in that range, 34, 35 to be exact, but I mean, that's just crazy if you think about it. Like you think about Will Chamberlain, you think about the guy who holds the most records in the NBA, right? Like the greatest athlete of all times in basketball. I mean, this dude can do it all. Like, he can literally do it all. Like, that's why he has the most records. Plays the most minutes. He holds that record. It will never be broken. He was able to lead the league in assists one season. I mean, he was averaging like 50-point seasons and stuff. Like,
I'd like to tell Clyde how many points you would score if you played in the game today. How many points do you average?
Well, you got to understand with the rules of the day, with the offense not allowed to touch you, can't come in and put 3 or 4 guys around you when you don't have the ball. Probably about 65 or 70 might be a good thing,
All right, thanks, guys. Back to Dick and Hubie.
And that's conservative, I bet.
Like, he can do it all. He's like the myth, the great myth, Will Chamberlain, right? So if you're like if you're in a record stat with Will Chamberlain, that just shows how, ridiculous this is. Now, for people who don't know what PER is basically like a metric where, you take all the positives that a player produces and minus the negatives. It's like a formula, and you modify it on their per minute basis. It spits out, their efficiency rating. So it's mostly like offensive rating.
We're talking about the regular season. So let's talk about the regular season. The Greek Freaks team has a better record. The Greek Freak has better numbers, a way higher player efficiency rating, and he's a better defensive player. And by the way, the reason I use PER, it's an imperfect stat, but instead of me hearing from people, well, here are the points, here are the rebounds, here's the assists, etc., PER takes that all into consideration. So it's a pretty good, quick little sketch of a player offensively. The Greek Freak is trouncing LeBron in PER.
But it's more catered to offense, but it just shows you, like, gives you a number, like, oh, like, how efficient is this person really is, like, all these advanced analytics and stuff. I mean, we're in the age of advanced analytics where, everything's amplified. I'm pretty sure contracts are, like, based off advanced analytics stuff as well. Like, oh, you're supposed to, maintain certain portions of, this stat, and we'll give you, like, a bonus. That's why players don't even, take a shot anymore after time runs out. Like, after the first quarter, people do not take like 3-point shots anymore, like half court shots, because it's just gonna drop down the percentages, right? So that's why advanced analytics is like so like amplified nowadays. Not only was Giannis having the highest PR in NBA history. I mean, he was leading this team to almost 70 wins. Like, they were on pace to win 70 wins, right? I mean, I made remarks previously saying that the Bucks this year are basically the 2015-2016 Warriors, where they're super great right now, but once they haven't what's it called? They haven't faced adversity as much yet. Now, of course, Giannis got injured and it kind of hindered his MVP chances a little bit. I mean, it shouldn't. But, they're trying to make the argument because his stats dipped because of his injury and time off. My argument was that Giannis was supposed to be unanimous MVP, but that's not looking the case. I mean, he should deserve unanimous MVP. I mean, his sufficient. His season is like one of the best seasons of all time, basically. And that's just talking about the offensive side only, right? If you jump to the defensive side, I believe Giannis should win Defensive Player of the Year as well. I mean, there's very few players that have won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season, right? You got Michael Jordan and you got Hakeem Olajuwon, right? I think Hakeem Olajuwon did it twice. Maybe. I believe he did it twice, I think. I may have to check up on that, but like, if you put those two contexts together, like, Giannis having an impact on the level of the Hakeem Olajuwon this season, right? I mean, this guy is on another level with defense. Now, people want to say, Anthony Davis is like, oh, Defensive Player of the Year. I don't agree. Like Giannis is the best defender on the best defensive team, right? So he's top 3 in every defensive metric. If you look up Anthony Davis's defensive metrics, Giannis is either behind him or above him. So he's doing that while not playing, while also, putting an offensive output, and higher usage than Anthony Davis. So he has more on his plate for Anthony Davis while also maintaining, his defensive abilities, right?
What Anthony Davis does defensively for the Lakers, Giannis does for the Bucks, which is why those two guys are the leading candidates to win Defensive Player of the Year. Look at those team ranks. You saying doing it all for a squad? That's the definition of doing it all for a squad.
Right. So, if you look at, what's it called? If you look at all the defensive metrics, right? Like, if Giannis is in the perimeter or, in the vicinity of a player, like their percentages drop down. You can literally look it up on like, you know, advanced analytics. Like opponents, you know, shoot like 41%. Like when, you know, Giannis is like right near him. Like that's crazy, right? Now people want to say, you know, Brook Lopez, you know, he's leading the lead in blocks. Like, oh, like they have Brook Lopez and, you know, they have, what's it called? Like other great wing defenders. Yeah, you can make the case for that, but, you know, they don't have that kind of defensive impact while Giannis. Like he had momentum to win Defensive Player of the Year last season as well. Like I thought he should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year, but that was not the case. He ended up winning MVP. And this year, he got even better on the defensive end. So, I mean, it's just crazy, like how efficient the Bucks are. The Bucks are the most efficient defense in the league. Like, advanced analytics prove that he's the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Regular stats prove that he is the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, while playing 31 minutes. You know, other players are playing way more minutes than him while being less efficient. His usage rate is like the number one in the NBA at 36.2, right? I mean, he has to do so much for the Bucks. He has to create everything, set up everything, run up the offense while playing Defensive Player of the Year, caliber defense. You know, every set. This man right here, it shouldn't really be an argument.
The season stopped. Giannis is the MVP to me. It's almost impossible to make any kind of statistical case for LeBron. As great as he is, in most other seasons, LeBron wins MVP. In this season, Giannis is averaging 30 points and 14 rebounds a game and might win Defensive Player of the Year. That's very, very hard to compete against, and the Bucks have the best record in the NBA.
It shouldn't really be arguments to me. Like, look, LeBron James, the narrative is LeBron James is having, you know, a great season as well for a 35-year-old. That's all narrative based. Like, the MVP is not a, you know, honorary award for people that don't have a chance to win MVP ever again. It's whoever has the best season on the best team. Usually it's on the best team, right? You gotta be consistent with it. But it's usually people with the best team, on the best team, you know, with great stats. There's no argument you can make for LeBron James. You can't make a stat argument for LeBron James over Giannis because, you know, Giannis playing less minutes while being even more efficient, right? You know, Giannis is playing Defensive Player of the Year defense over LeBron James, who has a Defensive Player of the Year player in Anthony Davis. I mean, Anthony Davis having an MVP season as well. That alone should cancel LeBron James' chances of winning the MVP. But, you know, there's a lot of, like, you know, love propaganda where everyone in, like, you know, ESPN media or like NBA media are trying to, you know, cap for LeBron James, saying that, you know, I don't have a vote. You know, Mike Greenberg's, you know, clown ass saying that, you know, I don't have a vote, but I'm campaigning for LeBron James.
Clear, I do not have a vote, so I'm just giving an opinion. The fact that he's 35 and doesn't have years and years left to do this, and Giannis does, would factor into my decision.
Because this is the last time LeBron James might have a chance to win MVP. Well, you know, too bad. Like, you know, it is what it is. Just because Giannis is having, you know, an even better season, you can't just give it to LeBron James just so you can, you know, prop him up. The reason why ESPN, you know, all these propaganda stuff wants to give LeBron James another MVP is they want to close the gap of the argument with Michael Jordan and LeBron James. I mean, it's clear as day you can say that, right?
Stop it. Get some help.
So once he adds an MVP, you know, then they'll be like, oh, well, you know, now he has like 4 MVPs now. So it's like the same as, you know, Michael Jordan and stuff. Like it's ridiculous. Like, it's gonna be another talking point. But, you know, LeBron James has no chance. Like, there's a lot of narrative going on. I mean, look, you got dudes like Kendrick Perkins. Like, he literally went to Zach Lowe and said that, you know, F stats. I don't want to talk about stats. It's the eye test.
The PER. Who is PER? What's his name? Who came up with it? I don't want to hear nothing about no PER. The eye test.
You want to hear about points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals?
The eye test shows me.
Right? Like, what is PR? Like, man, get out of here, dude. Like Kendrick Perkins he's making some stupid arguments and stuff that generally just don't work. Like, the argument for LeBron James has always been, you know, if you take off LeBron James off of the team, you know, how good is their team, right? Like, if you go, so they're trying to make it sound like if you take LeBron James off the team, the Lakers are not going to make the playoffs, right? But if you take Giannis off the Bucks, you know, they'll make the playoffs. I mean, dude, that's the tale as old as time for LeBron James. Every team that LeBron James has been on, it's either if you take LeBron James off the team, they don't make the playoffs. Shows you how good LeBron James is. And when he loses, LeBron James has no help. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you can't have it both ways sometimes. Like, the argument that Giannis is playing in the weak East, it's ridiculous, because if you really follow basketball, you know that the East and the West are way closer than they were previous times. I mean, it's like what Max Kellerman said to, like, Kendrick Perkins, like when Kendrick Perkins was pulling, you know, teams like from like 5 to 8 years ago, like, it would show you the dramatic increase of the East, right? I mean, in Miami Heat, they didn't really have too much competition besides the Boston Celtics, and the Boston Celtics were old. Like it was, like, they're out of their primes, and they're lucky that the that Wade, you know, broke Rondo's arm during, like, Game 5, because you don't even know what's gonna happen if Rondo was healthy for the Celtics. Like, the Celtics had a really good chance of beating the Heat that year because Rondo was playing on another level. And then when he got in that scuffle with, you know, Dwayne Wade, and Dwayne Wade broke his arm, like, it was over right there. Like, they had no chance after that because, you know, Rondo was picking them apart. And then he decided to play against them with one arm, and they lost, like, in, like, 7. So who knows? But, I mean, if you think about it, you know what? PG and his Pacers, they weren't really a contending team. Like, his second best player was, like, Roy Hibbert, right? And then on like, later on, it was, like, David West, right? Not really a threat. And then you got that 60-win Hawk team that was a fluke season. That was a season the Hawks were super based off of analytics, where they shot a bunch of threes. You know, Kyle Korver had a career year in shooting threes. They had, like, 4 All-Stars that year? Jeff Teague, Paul Millsap, Al Horford, Kyle Korver. Like, when you think of 4 All-Stars, right? That doesn't really like scare you at all. Like, oh, okay, like, you know, Kyle Korver made the All-Star. Okay, all right. Jeff Teague, okay, he's a backup right now for the Atlanta Hawks. All right, you know, Paul Millsap's good. Al Horford, okay, all right. Al Horford, yeah, all right. Like, you know, it's ridiculous. I mean, even going back to the West, I mean, the East, where LeBron James was younger and first time with Cavs, he wasn't playing with no competition, right? He was playing with no competition. He was playing against the Wizards. Like, the Wizards were the 40-win team. Like, okay, you know, Gilbert Arenas, all right. Like, we scared of Gilbert Arenas, all right. You know, Gilbert Arenas okay, all right. And then you get to the Pistons, right? Where LeBron James magically, you know, beat the Pistons. The reason why he beat the Pistons is because they traded Ben Wallace, and I believe they brought in Chris Webber, and even though they were winning like high 50+ win records, Chris Webber is done. Like, his Achilles was messed up. Like, he had like bone fractures that ended his career, something of that sort. And that's when LeBron went off, because there was no post presence to block LeBron out. Because the reason why people like don't remember this, but LeBron struggles against like, you know, post presence players, you know, previously. Like, Ben Wallace was giving him trouble. Dude, Roy Hibbert was giving him trouble too, like, because they were playing small. Like, Dwight Howard beat him in that series. Like, that just goes to show you that, you know, LeBron James was, you know, he didn't even have a consistent jumper, so he was just consistently driving and blowing past people. That was mainly his game, right? Drive, kick it out. I mean, it still is, but he has like a more consistent jumper, but not as consistent as I would say too reliable. But, you know, it's just ridiculous. Like, dude, the East, you know, was weak. Like, in 2008, when LeBron James won the MVP, right? You can make the argument that Kobe Bryant should have won the MVP. Like, I would usually make the argument, why didn't Kobe win the MVP? I mean, yeah, LeBron James, like, what? He had that, 60-win team or something on the Cavs, won MVP. He had no competition in the East compared to the West, where Kobe Bryant was, he averaged, 2 less points than LeBron James, 2 less assists and 2 less rebounds and stuff, right? But he played against 50-win teams consistently. He is the player who plays the most consistently 50-win teams in NBA history. Like, that year in the East, the first seed was the Lakers, and the 8th seed was the Jazz, and they won 52 games or some sort like that. No, it was the OKC Thunder. No, it might be next year, but it was in that range of the Jazz was the first round, and every team was 50-win teams. They were good teams that they were playing in the playoffs, right? And then, LeBron James, he plays against teams that have no business being the top in the 8th seed, basically. So yes, you can make the argument for LeBron James playing the weak East, but this is different now for Giannis, because time passes and players and teams are getting better. There's certain weak teams in the East, but the East is amplified right now. I mean, you're just waiting on the basis of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving come back to add more to it, and then who knows where Oladipo's going to go next year. If he goes to the Heat become a contending team, probably. With Oladipo and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Who knows what's going to happen. But honestly, my vote is Giannis should win both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year.